What if you spend the next 60 years trying to succeed at things that don't really matter? That's why I want to have this conversation. Hey guys, so before you went and watched the whole video, I just wanted to say that if you make it to the end, thank you. I wasn't expecting it to be 25 minutes long, but I just wanted to go ahead and say that this video is framed to be a conversation between two people, me and you. Imagine that you and I are sitting at a coffee table and I'm just running down my story with you about how the past year and a half of my life has been. So if you make it to the end, great. Thank you so much for listening. If you don't make it to the end, no hard feelings. This is going to be the first video in the series that I put up on my Instagram, where I asked you guys to ask me a bunch of questions in the Q&A about theology, skeptical questions, and I said that I would go ahead and make videos answering them. And one of the questions that I got the most was my story, my testimony of how I got here. And so this is a long-awaited video, one I've been wanting to make for a while, and that's what I'm going to do today. So to premise this, I am now a Christian. I believe the Gospels are true, and I am committing my life to becoming more like Christ from each and every day forward from here. And scratch back a year and a half ago, scratch back a year ago, and if someone told me that that's where I would be right now, I would laugh in their face, because I always considered myself a person of reason and intellect, and I'm a man of science, and I follow the facts there, and I honestly didn't have the highest view of Christians. Don't know why I felt that way, but I was just like, I didn't see, why would you go against reason? Can you really not, live your lives just knowing that, at the end it's the end and it's over and there's really no purpose and everything is subjective. But one thing I did like was philosophy and thinking. I loved thought. I loved physics. I just loved exploring the world and learning more about it. To me, that was the most fun thing to do. To me, that was the most beautiful thing to do. And so I really, really liked philosophy. And I even started a YouTube channel a year and a half ago and I talked a lot about philosophy and Socrates and just different ideas of the times and how they apply into my life, and just trying to spread the word about those things. And one afternoon at sunset, I was creating a video, and I turned around and the sun was setting, and I said, this whole God thing, it's a thing that I don't believe, but I never have really taken the time to assess why I believe, or why I don't believe, actually. And so I said, you know what, I think I have to figure this out. I'm about to graduate, I'm starting my life. Let me put this question at bay so I can go on in my life and have a clear conscience. So being in that position where I was just wanting to have a clear conscience as I started my life, I said, I'll give it a chance. It'll take me, a month to disprove this thing. I love to read, I love to research, I know how to research. I'll just go into it and I'll have my answer in a month. Clearly, it didn't work out that way. That question, that moment set me on a path for a year and a half to start looking deeper into the question. So I guess that sets the premise of where I was coming from. Skeptic, leaning towards atheism. Thought it would be an easy task to just throw this question under the dust. Didn't really. I said I'm going to lay aside as much as I can my presuppositions, take my biases, which is, it's so hard to do, obviously, to set your biases aside, but I said, to the best of my ability, I'm going to assess all of the evidence, I'm going to look all into it, and wherever the facts lead, that's my conclusion. So a year and a half goes by of, at first it started of, each day I would put like 2 or 3 hours into research after school, and on the weekends I would look into it a lot. But definitely in the last year, the last 8 months, you could say, it became more of like this isn't turning out how I thought it was turning out. I need to know the answer, And so the last 8 months, I would say it was more of an obsession to just figure it all out. It was a pressing question on my mind each and every day. So during a period where I really had that question pressing on my heart and my mind, I would just constantly read. I would use any moment I could to look more into this. The way that I went about it was, okay, I don't necessarily believe in God right now, and it doesn't even have to, like, I wasn't going into any specific religion and just starting from there. It's like, I don't believe in God, so if I can disprove God, religions, put them to the side. So I started with the existence of God. I don't think it's probable. I don't think it's compelling, but I never really looked at the arguments. So I looked for the arguments of God. I looked through them for months, and I found the arguments more compelling than I had recently expected. I'll make another video about all the arguments and breaking them down and why and where, at what times that I come to believe they were compelling. So I got past the point where I'm like, okay, there probably could be a God, so what about all these religions? After a few months of looking through different religions and trying to really saturate myself in these different ideas, Christianity was one that really caught my attention, and because it answered 4 of the main questions that I was looking at when it came to studying these religions, which I'll make another video about as well in the future. But it answered those 4 questions. And so I was sitting here with a mind that believes God could be probable and looking at Christianity, and I said, okay, this all hinges on one event. If this one event didn't happen, then it's pretty much all a shamble, and that's the resurrection. And because if the resurrection isn't true, what is? I mean, that Christianity falls apart, essentially. So this was the biggest period of time, I feel like, where I did the most research. Are the Gospels credible? Is there a difference between the historical Jesus and the Jesus in the Bible? Looking at the contradictions in the Gospels and why they were there. Is there any evidence for all these claims outside of the Bible? These are just some of the questions that I had to come about, because if you think about it, Christianity makes the claim that this person came to earth, born of a virgin, lived a sinless life, claimed to be God, and that he would serve as the atonement to restore the relationship and the covenant with God and his people. These claims are, and he also, and the biggest part, he died and came back to life. If those things are true, it changes everything, doesn't it? And as I took the time to look into these different arguments and looking at the evidence, I came to a point where I had compiled as much evidence as needed to draw a conclusion. And so I had to sit down and I asked myself, okay, emotions to the side, which is hard to do. This is the evidence. What is the best explanation of the evidence? Either way, I can't know 100% for sure. To anyone that says they're 100% sure of anything, I would be very careful with that. You can't be 100% sure. It's like reason can take you to the end, and then you draw your conclusion. Reason can take you so far, and then there's points where you have to put your faith in one or the other. Either one takes faith. Either belief takes faith, takes belief that I don't believe, I believe this side more than I believe that side. Each side takes faith. And so I guess the essential question was, which side takes more faith? Belief in God, belief in that there is no God, So I said, what is the best explanation of the evidence? And I came to believe that Jesus Christ really is the Son of God. I put my faith in the conclusion that I believe best explains the evidence, and that is that the claims of Christianity are true. And I told myself at the beginning of this journey that I would follow the facts where they lead. So at that point, I said, okay, I believe this is the best explanation of the evidence. Then I took 5 months trying to disprove it, because I didn't want it to be true. It would change everything for me, and it has changed everything for me. But at that time, I was like, okay, if this is true, I'm going to have to change everything in my life. Everything I thought was real, everything I thought was true, everything that I was working for, it changes. And so, yeah, it did take that period of time to try to disprove myself. And I would just run in circular questions. I would bring myself to different points where it just felt more emotional, or a reason would kind of get left out, and it would just be like, my questions were circular pretty much, and none of them really got to the fundamentals, the fundamental beliefs of Christianity. They were all on the outside, and they didn't really shake the core, It was hard to try to find questions to do that. I had gone to this ministry called Great Questions, where skeptical people can come in and ask questions. And I had asked a question about free will, basically, and sovereignty, and what's the point of praying if, God already knows what's going to happen, and God is sovereign, so his will is absolute, and it happens. So what's the point of praying if, what's the relationship in that? So I got my answer for that, and I was like, okay, should have asked a harder question. And then after, I kind of sat with him, shared my story, and then the big things that it boiled down to, and he asked me, was like, who do you trust more, yourself, or this Christ you've been looking at, Jesus that you've been looking at? And I looked back in my past, and I looked at the ways that I had been doing life, and they weren't exemplary at all. Very imperfect. That's sugarcoating, actually. It was not good. It was not good. There was a lot of good, but a lot of bad as well. And so, in that moment, I said, all right, you know what? I'll give it a chance. I told myself that I would follow the facts. I would follow it where it leads, and no matter where it was, I will follow the facts where they lead, where the best explanation of the evidence goes. And so I was in a situation I didn't expect myself in, and it was a top-down type of approach for me. Once he got to my head and we worked there for 18, 19 months, then once that was at a secure point, he started working with my heart, and that is where the most growth was really needed, and that's where I really started to come into relationship with him, not just an understanding of who he was and who he is, and knowing the arguments that can only serve as the knock on the door, essentially. But then once I was in, I really came into the relationship there. In that relationship, I see now the gospel is a creator and his creation. Over time, because of free will, he has to let his creation be able to choose, because without that free will, there is no choice, and without that choice, there is no love. So he creates, and there is choice, and there is free will, and his creation chooses away from him to separate themselves from them. And from all of history down that is covenants broken off by humans, covenant ruined by the creation, covenants ruined by the creation. So at the end of the day, he says, I love my people so much, I love my creation so much, I'm going there myself. I'm going there to make covenant with myself through them. That's what it was. That is the gospel, essentially. That's how I've come to see it. And it's changed everything for me. And I'm no scholar, I'm no theologian. At the end of the day, the reason I made this channel, and the reason I'm starting this, and the reason I'm recording this videos right now, is because I want us to become friends. I'm speaking to a camera right now, but I want us to become friends. And the fact that we are both human beings, and we have these essential things that lie in us that really connect us, all of us. No bigotry, no judgment. That's none of this. This is love. This is humans speaking to humans. This is something that I'm passionate about. This is something that I care so deeply about. I want us to become friends. That's what I want. And I'll go ahead and read this quote that popped in my head before I was running this thing. Our greatest fear should not be of failure, but of succeeding at things in life that don't really matter. And that's Tim Kiziar. And isn't that something to think about? What if you spend the next 60 years trying to succeed at things that don't really matter. That's why I want to have this conversation, because that's what I was doing, and that's what I was on a path to do. And miraculously, I had come to understand this truth. The creation turned back around and looked at the creator one last time to give him a chance, and there started a relationship. And another thing I want to say, it's a quote by C.S. Lewis. It would seem that our Lord finds our desires not too strong, but too weak. We are half-hearted creatures, fooling about with drink and sex and ambition, when infinite joy is offered to us. Like an ignorant child who wants to go on making mud pies in a slum because he cannot imagine what is meant by the offer of a holiday at sea. We are far too easily pleased. And it's not that our desires are wrong, they're just half-hearted. We're humans, we have these innate things that we're drawn to, and those things aren't wrong, they're just half-hearted. They're missing half the picture. I want to help you see the hope of what could be. I was in a broken place, but I was still feeling secure. But at the same time, I was realizing that I was hurting a lot of people around me. I was a selfish person, and my creator didn't give up on me. And why would he give up on you? If this is true, if this really is true, if these claims are true, that means you have a God of the universe that created everything. It created the seas, the skies, the heavens, the ocean. And that creator loves you infinitely, as if you were the only human being on this planet. If that's true, doesn't that change everything? That's why I'm making this video. I'm asking you the question right now. Doesn't that change everything? If these claims are true, does it change everything? Or do we fall into ignorance? That's why I want to have this conversation. My words aren't perfect. I had no script here. And I want to make those connections even deeper. And if I'm missing something, let me know. I want to start a relationship, a friendship with you. Anyone who's watching this video, let's come together. We have so much in common. We do. We're humans on this earth trying to figure out why we're here. Is there a purpose? Is there no purpose? We have these questions that lie at the center of us that connect us together. So why don't we, take each other's hands and really work through this together? And, am I missing anything here? This is my story. I came to it, and I believe this to be true. And I want to spend the rest of my life giving that opportunity to others, because I understand now, as freely received, I can now freely give. I was missing it before. And so I want to ask, is there a chance that you're missing it? Is there a chance that you're missing it? This is, I know this is YouTube. This is a kind of a superficial type of thing sometimes, video. This is not a video to me. To me, this is real. To me, this is a conversation, me, you, one-on-one. Is there a chance that you could be missing it? Is there a chance this could be true? And have you really taken the time to figure that out? And let's discover these things more. That's what I want to do, is go into this and discover this more. And so I want to finish this off by quoting actually from the book of Matthew. And it says, ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives. The one who seeks finds. And to the one who knocks, the door will be opened. And that's Matthew 7, verses 7 and 8. So I guess I'm just inviting you to knock, to seek, figure it out. Because if these claims are true, it changes everything, doesn't it? Thanks for listening.